Got it. Welcome to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Also streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm your host, Nick Geber. Find me on Twitter. It is Nick Geber, to make it easy. That's at Nick Geber, Nickgebei. Would love to hear from you. We've got a great show today. Chock full of betting goodness for you. That's right, chock full of betting goodness. We're going to cover college football bowl betting tips, tricks, strategies, and line movements with Craig El Guapo Trapp. Then we're going to move right along to some college basketball. That's right, the NCAA basketball season in full swing. We'll be joined by Sean Higgs. We're going to talk Xavier at Villanova, Seton Hall at DePaul, and Tulane at Memphis. And then finally, Tony Tellez will join me here. And we're going to talk NBA basketball, Heat at Wizards, Bucks at Bulls, Pistons at Jazz, Suns at Blazers. Lots to get to today. So if you're thinking about betting on those games, be sure to stay tuned because we will have all of those for you with free picks. And don't worry, though, if we're not covering a game that you would like to bet on, you can go to our website, picksandparlays.net, where we have a plethora of picks of the free variety for you. And, of course, our expert picks are awaiting. And right now we have a 15% off special offer. Promo code BOWL, B-O-W-L, 15% off everything you might want to load into your cart. All right, I am going to gather my thoughts, get the free picks ready for you, get our special guests on the horn, on the line, ready to go. In the meantime, if you'd like to speak to us here on the studio during the show, you can do that. Just fill out the comments section on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. You can search us, Picks and Parlays, or use hashtag Parlay Radio, and we will see your comment and endeavor to put it up on the screen. Not too rude, please. Rude, some rude, okay. Not too rude, though. Well, okay. Today, for the holidays, too rude is allowed. All right, I'm going to step aside, take a break, and be right back with more here on Picks and Parlays. Welcome back to Picks and Parlays. I'm your host, Nick Geber. Twitter me, give me a call. At Nick Geber. That sounded obscene, didn't it? But, well, I guess I'm kind of a rude person, so what can I say? By the way, this is the show for Monday, December the 30th, 2019. I'd like to wish everybody a very happy 5th day of Kwanzaa. Hope day 1, 2, 3, and 4 were fabulous celebratory days of Kwanzaa for you. And, of course, here in the Picks and Parlay studio, we go absolutely crazy for this holiday. Gifts, songs, dance aplenty here at Picks and Parlays. Get your best bets, always picksandparlays.net. Loads of free picks for you on the site. And, of course, we do like to steer you in the right direction when it comes to betting on sports. Not just free picks, but loads of advice as well. Let's bring in special guest, El Guapo and El Jefe, Craig Trapp. Craig, how are you doing today? How's your Kwanzaa celebration going?
Well, I don't know if I've started yet, but we can start right now if you'd like.
Let's do that. Why don't we give a nice 5th day of Kwanzaa gift to all of our viewers and listeners by giving them some free college bowl picks, advice, and discussion of line movements. Craig, why don't we start with the Citrus Bowl, Michigan, Alabama. This is Alabama -7, total 58 points. What's going on with the good old Citrus Bowl? Lots of fruit, by the way, other than that.
Yeah, this time of year, who isn't eating fruit this time of year? Either, candy or fruit. But this line opened at 7, still at 7. Of course, with Tua out for Alabama, this team's probably going to have some issues. Scoring in Michigan, of course, hasn't been good in big games or bowl games. Total started at 54.5. I do see it at 58 now. Of course, that's coming off Alabama's allowing 40-something to LSU and to Auburn this year. So I can see why the total has jumped to 58 in this one.
All right, the Outback Bowl. You can have a bloomin' onion with your bowl and a really cheesy sounding guy speaking with an Australian accent, but you also get Minnesota and you also get Minnesota and Auburn. I didn't say pardon me, I was reading it wrong. That's actually the two teams in the Outback Bowl, which is good. Now, I'm wondering, do you get free shrimps on the barbie when you go to the Outback Bowl? That I don't know. But Auburn is -7, total is 53. Far away, Craig. Free shrimp?
Yeah, this line actually opened. This line actually opened at Auburn -8, so it actually came down, which is a little surprising considering Auburn played so well to finish the year against Alabama. The total started at 49, up to, I see it at 53 or 53.5, depending on where you look at. I'm kind of surprised. Early, I was looking at Auburn at 8. Now I really like them at 7.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. So we like Auburn at 7 on that one. Let's move along. The Rose Bowl, Pasadena, California. Great place to go and see a game. Of course, when you sit in 10 hours worth of traffic to get out, then you just want to commit suicide. It's Wisconsin, Oregon at the Rose Bowl. Wisconsin 3-point favorites. Total 51.5. Should be a good game with that sort of total, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, this total actually opened at 49.5, and there's some 51.5, some 51s out there. There's actually some Wisconsin -2.5 out there as well, so definitely shop this around, but the consensus is 3. Wisconsin, I'm a little shocked because they didn't really look good against Ohio State the first time. Yeah, they looked good the first half of the second game, but then Ohio State kind of dominated from then on out. So I'm a little surprised here. I think Oregon, they're used to playing on the West Coast. I think Oregon is the play here as a slight underdog.
All right. Next up, we're going to have the Sugar Bowl with Baylor, Georgia. Georgia, what a season they had, by the way. Kind of petered out a little later on. I mean, they were everybody's darling, but they end up in the Sugar Bowl against Baylor. Not quite sure how that happened. Oh, I know. They lost big games to big teams that did a lot better than them at the end of the season. But Georgia, 5.5-point favorites, total 41.5.
Yeah, this line actually has moved a ton. It opened with Georgia favored by 8.5. I see it anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 out there now, so you can shop that one around. The total opened at 42.5, and we see it at 41.5 now. A little surprised here that the line has moved this much, considering Oklahoma looked so poorly against LSU in the national championship game. I kind of thought this line might move back towards the favorite of Georgia here, but of course Georgia has several players that aren't going to play in this one. But either way, I think Georgia is a much stronger team. I think they represent well here for the SEC.
All right, next up, the Birmingham Bowl. We're not talking about Birmingham, England, are we? Didn't think so.
No.
Probably Birmingham, Alabama. BC versus Cincy. Those are your boys there, aren't they, Craig? Cincy, 7-point favorites, total 55.5.
Yeah, these are actually the January 2nd bowls. The first 4 we looked at were the New Year's Day bowls. Cincinnati opened as a 6.5-point favorite. This one's up either 7. I even see some 7.5s out there. And the total in this one opened at 55.5, and that's mostly the consensus. I do see a few 55s out there. But Cincinnati, of course, lost the last 2 games in dramatic style to Memphis. Memphis got absolutely hammered in their bowl game. And they also lost to Ohio State this year. So, I mean, if you look at Cincinnati, they definitely deserve to be the favorite in this one. I just don't know. I think 7 might be a little aggressive here. I don't have my official play up on this one, but just looks like it maybe be a little too much for a Bearcats team.
All right. Gator Bowl, Indiana, Tennessee. Indiana, by the way, used to have a lot of fun. Go to Gary Fanny's. Very rude bar there in Indiana. Probably long gone. And if it isn't, well, the police aren't doing their job. Indiana, Tennessee. Tennessee, -1.5 points, total 52. Tennessee slight favorites here. What's going on with this one, Craig?
Well, this actually line opened as a pick'em. So Tennessee, there's even some 2s out there. So Tennessee's gotten a lot of pub in this one. The total opened at 51.5. I do see it at 52 now, so not much movement there. But, Tennessee is one of those up-and-down teams. They really were poor to start the season. Indiana was a darling as an underdog this year. Had some really nice covers for us this year. But I think this is a pretty big step up facing an SEC, much larger defensive line. I don't know. This one is one I'm probably going to stay away from. Just a little worrisome because Indiana was good this year, but most of the times when they were underdog, they were getting many more points than this.
Well, I'll tell you what, Craig, if Indiana win, why don't you and I celebrate? Let's go to Gary. Let's go to Fanny's. You bring me picks and parlays, small change box with lots of those singles and fives. Yeah. And, I think we could have a really good time, all right?
Yeah, I think that could be on the expenditure list.
All right, I like it. Okay, finally, National Championship Week. It is, well, I suppose Ohio State was a big surprise. No one's surprised that LSU have got there. LSU are a cut above everyone else. They are 5.5-point favorites, 70 points, the total points on this one. I'm assuming, I don't know anyone's going to beat LSU. How many NFL teams could LSU beat right now?
Well, I don't know if we get carried away on that one. No, Bengals beat the Browns. They cost the Browns their coach. But LSU, obviously, very impressive. Clemson, I still don't know how they won that game because Ohio State dominated the first half. Some questionable calls. I'm an Ohio State hater, so if I'm saying they're questionable, they probably are questionable. But they are. Clemson is the defending national champion. I do give them a little credit there, but I definitely think this line opened at 6. It's been bet down to 5.5. I think the steam's going the wrong way on this one. I think LSU wins and wins big. Joe Burrow, of course, the Heisman Trophy winner, was very impressive. I think he has another big game. I also think, as high as total as this one is, I still think this one goes over. I think this one's another shootout. LSU has played in many. All the teams that have been good this year, they've went over on all those games. So I think the over and LSU on my initial look on this opening line report.
Are we actually going to have an exciting national championship game? That's the non-betting question for you.
I think so. I think it'll be interesting early. I think if you like points, if you like defense, probably not going to be the game for you because there's going to be a lot of points. LSU, that you saw how much speed they had at their skill positions. I think this one is a light up the scoreboard type game. I mean, last year's national championship and the national championship games in general have been very competitive until probably last year. So I think this one is a pretty competitive game early, and I think LSU then pulls away late.
Craig Trapp, El Guapo, always an absolute pleasure. I will see you, my friend, at Fanny's. You make sure you have that cash with you so that we can have, indeed, a good time. All right, in celebration of the 5th day of Kwanzaa, do not worry, folks. We've got loads more. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Higgy Smalls. That's right, Sean Higgs. Let's talk some college basketball. I'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the show. Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, where I might add, we're with you every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, and streaming throughout the day here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Love to hear from you. Just fill in the comment section on any one of our social media sites, and we will see your comment, and we'll do our best to bring it into the show. Meanwhile, I promised you some college basketball, and I hear him in the background. He's ready to go. Higgy Smalls, let's bring him on in. Sean, what an absolutely lovely festive Picks and Parlay shirt you're wearing. Congratulations, you're looking good there with the hat. Of course, we'll talk about the Oreo cheesecake a little later and the fact that you are withholding it from me. That is something that your wife and I are going to have to take up. It might be fisticuffs or flintlocks at 20 paces, but, hey, let's talk college basketball, shall we? 3 games we've curated for our listeners and viewers. All 3 of these games available up at picksandparlays.net as well. Let's start, shall we? Tulane at Memphis. The Tulane Green Wave, which, by the way, Sounds like you had a bad Christmas dinner or something. 8-4, 7-4 against the spread. They've cooled down considerably after a nice 5-1 run. They've gone 1-3, losing the last 2 in a row. They're 1-0 straight up and against the spread away from home. They're 12-5 against the spread in the last 17 games, and they get to meet the super hot 11-1 Memphis Tigers, 8-3-1 against the spread. They're on a 9-game winning streak, following their sole loss to Oregon, which is back, I think, the 9th of November, if I remember correctly. 5-0 straight up, 3-2 against the spread at home. Center James Wiseman, this was interesting. He actually left the university. He was suspended for 12 games, then said, to hell with it, I'm gone. Signed with an agent, put himself in for the NBA draft. That's the way you say thank you for even pretending like you care about giving me an education, Memphis. But really, these guys couldn't give a snot about that. It's one and done and on to the NBA. Total's gone under, by the way, for the last 5 for the Tigers. They are big favorites, 16 points, total 144. Really, I mean, it's a big FU to the university. Why don't we just end this charade, really? Why do we even bother having this charade, Higgy?
Well, the funny thing about that is he actually took money from Penny Hardaway when he was his high school coach, apparently. And he followed him to Memphis. Listen, should you guys get paid? I guess they should get a little something. They should get more than what they're getting. Especially like these are big guys. You give them a $20 meal allowance or some ridiculous nonsense. That's only going to cause trouble. Let's be honest. Pay the guys something. I get it. They get education. They get medical. They get all the stuff covered for them. Yes, but on the flip side, give them something. When schools are making money, they're on ESPN and Fox Sports and all these channels. The old trickle down is not trickling down to the people actually doing the work there. So do I think players should get paid? Yeah. How are you going to do that? Because the swim team's going to want a cut of that. The volleyball, sports that don't generate remotely anything close to NCAA basketball or college football, especially, you talk about these paths for these bowl games, and what they get. I mean, Rutgers, I was happy Rutgers went to the Big 12 because after our Big 10, after like 5 years, we're going to get like $25-30 million a year. That's excellent for the school. Good for them. But how does that translate to like the bowling team? How can you justify? How are you going to pay these guys? What's the 5-star recruit getting compared to the guy on the bowling team?
I don't think you do. I mean, look, my point is that for American football, college programs are the minor leagues, okay?
Yes,
for
absolutely.
College, but for the NBA, they do not have to be the minor leagues. There are other paths to the NBA other than college. So I would suggest to you that they need to get rid of this one and done nonsense. And if you're going to sign for
at least 2 years,
at least 2 years,
just based on the fact that you're 18, 17, 18-year-old kids, you're going to hang out with grown men, and let's be honest, you're going to bars, you're going out.
They go to Fanny's in Indiana, in Gary, Indiana, where Craig and I are going to be.
That's just, you're 20, you're hanging out with. I mean, LeBron's a 35-year-old man. You're going to get. There's not many physical specimens in college that are ready. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal came out of college. The guy was thin. Yeah. He was a thin guy. It's just give him 2 years. Give him 2 years to mature. They can't. How are you going to let a kid get in there with $10 million in his pocket? That's just bad. It's bad. Yeah. But that goes back to this education. I mean, they don't teach kids how to balance a checkbook or.
Oh, come on. These kids come out of college. They can barely spell their names. Spare me. All right, let's move on. By the way, so don't talk to me about these garbage college bowls. What is up with this Red Box bowl, by the way? I mean, what is that, a video rental firm or a yeast infection? I'm not sure which one that is. But, okay, let's move on, shall we?
Hold on, we got to give a pick here. Just take Memphis here. I mean, Memphis blew them out twice last year. I think you just go Memphis or nothing on that game. I mean,
Memphis or bust.
They're a good team.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like a movie. Memphis or bust. Let's move on. Xavier at Villanova. The Musketeers, 11-2, 4-8-1 against the spread. Won the last 2 in a row. The last win was 67-59 over TCU. It'll be 8 days, though, since their last game. I wonder how that might factor into it. They're 1-1 straight up, 1-1 against the spread. Daniel Ramsey, a question mark. Total's gone over in 6 of the last 8, and Villanova, 9-2. By the way, 2 good programs, good records here. 4-6-1 against the spread. Brian Antoine out with a shoulder injury. Total's gone over in 12 of the last 17. Villanova, though, only 5-point home favorites, 139.5 points. Speak to me, Higgy.
Yeah, total looks a little low considering that Nova's a top 10 team. But, Xavier, tough. It's a tough team. What I'm looking at here is this total 139.5 seems a little low to me. I had this game playing out into like the 150, mid 150 range, and this is a 139. So that's a little odd for me. Listen, both times they played last year, they split on their home courts with relatively decent sized wins. Xavier by 12, Nova by 10, and 4-point win by Nova in the Big East tournament. So obviously familiar with each other, stuff like that. But I'm just gonna go. Looks a little easy, I guess, to say the 139. I'm gonna go over. I think this is gonna be a high scoring game. This is gonna go into the 150s. 130. It's just, I know we got a guy who's questionable, but I don't know. I think we'll see some points here tonight. So from video here, we're gonna go over this total here.
So Higgy, Xavier's will not have played a game for 8 days. Now, most of these college teams are playing about 2 games a week. So, how is that going to affect them? How do you think that'll affect them, or will it? Will it be a good thing? Will it allow them to rest, recuperate, or will they lose that kind of edge that they have?
These 2 weeks are tricky because it's, kids are home, it's exams, it's holidays. A lot of kids don't come back till the end of January. So the home court's not the same what it is. But these guys are going to play. It's Nova. It's not like you're coming at home to play some cupcake where you're going to come out. Listen, these guys have been practicing with or without the coach. They're a top 10 team playing against. They're the unranked smaller school, still considered, even though they're a Sweet 16 a lot of times. Xavier is a good program. But I look at it as you're not going to be really rusty here because it's the level of competition you're playing. It's not like you're playing Coppin State where you could come out and be like, all right, we took a half off. It's 41-36, and we're going to go on a 20-0 run to start the game. You can't do that against Villanova. So I think you're going to see both teams come out strong. Rest or not, it's conference play. It's big games, big teams. So I don't really think there's going to be a problem, to get up to start shooting the ball well.
All right. Higgy, we got one more game. We got 4 minutes.
Okay.
Seton Hall at DePaul. I love this one. This is an evil match between the Pirates and the Blue Demons. I tell you what, let's do Seton Hall, the Pirates. Let's do them in piratical verbiage, shall we, my friend? 8-4, 8-4 against the spread. On a 2-game winning streak. Most recently, making Prairie View A&M walk the plank with a 75-55 victory. They're 1-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. Miles Powell out with a concussion. Total has gone under in 5 of the last 6. And of course, for the DePaul Blue Demons, they're 12-1, 7-5-1 against the spread. They bounced back with 3 wins in a row after that loss to Buffalo. They're 8-1 straight up. 4-4-1 against the spread at home. Total's gone over in 5 of the last 7. I guess when you lose to Buffalo, it's a bit of a shock to the old system, isn't it? Seton Hall, though, 1-point favorites, 139.5 points. It seems like that's the standard point spread for everything now. It's like 139.5. Tell me, how do you see this one? Are the Pirates going to win over the Demons, laddie?
2 things. Buffalo was a pretty good program last year. They're not too bad, so don't knock Buffalo. And your pirate accent's great. If my kids were younger, I'd have you come over for story time. Put them to sleep at night. That's pretty good stuff. So right off the bat, you got Powell's not out, 20 points a game, 21 points a game for this guy, leading scorer, and they're favored. We got the Hall favored on the road, 12-1. You look at that record, it was like, oh, it's DePaul. Again, this is one of those games. We did them a couple last week. We had the Rutgers game. We had the Michigan was playing, again, laying like a 1 or 2 to Illinois. These lines that makes me like easy money one way. It's not. Don't fall for it. We're going to take the Hall without their leading scorer here. We're going to lay it at 1 point on the road, and we're going to score a nice 5-point victory here for us. So Seton Hall gets called. Easy play for us on the video. You might not think it's easy, but more often than not, these games cash at a very good clip for us this time of year.
All right, speaking of cashing for a very good clip for us, Higgy, we got a couple of minutes left. Talk to me. What's up with you at Picks and Parlays? What can our listeners and viewers find from Sean Higgs?
Well, nice little bowl run. 7-1 bowl run after Christmas. We really crushed it. We had Clemson. We had LSU, Notre Dame, North Carolina. So nice little run. Got the Orange Bowl up for tomorrow. Championship game up. We're covered in bowl action. Again, last year, 67%. This year, about 60%, I think. I didn't do my total numbers after the weekend because I'm involved in NFL right now, finishing up the slate here tonight. But, big week of college, and we got wild card games. We got lines up already. We got the Texans 3.5 over Buffalo, Patriots 5.5 over Tennessee. So, listen, college hoops, NFL playoffs, wild card, cold cash on the ice, and we still got bowl games to go. So, it's a good week coming into New Year's.
And of course, this week, Al Ninos and I will be giving you more Premier League picks, by the way. Premier League on fire right now. Great stuff. If you followed our picks from last week, you'd have been very, very, very happy. Gave you some big numbers there. Gave you Watford, gave you Chelsea. Okay, we'll forget Bournemouth, Brighton. But anyway, Higgy, always a pleasure to have you on. And next time I'll do more pirate for you, as long as your wife sends me that Oreo cheesecake that we talked about for the 5th day of Kwanzaa. Tell her it's not 5th day of Kwanzaa for me without Oreo cheesecake. All right.
Cheesecake, yeah, it's a staple.
It's a staple. Iggy Smalls, thank you so much. Sean Higgs, always a pleasure. All right, coming up, folks. Let's talk some NBA basketball with LT Gray himself, Tony Tellez. And what he'll tell you is these games, they're great. Welcome back, Picks and Parlays, coming to you live on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, and also streaming live throughout the day on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want to comment, participate on the show, do that. Just fill in the comment section on any one of our social media sites, and we will see it here in the studio and do our best to incorporate it into the show. All right, well, let's see. We've had college bowl betting. We've had college basketball. Let's turn our attention to what happens to these pampered guys when they come out of college, whether it's 1 year or 5 seconds later, and go to the NBA. Let's talk some NBA action, and who better to do that with this 5th day of Kwanzaa than our very good friend, LT Gray, Tony, the Tiger Tellez. Tony, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Nick. Ready to talk some NBA. Of course, there'll be some games without lines. That just seems to be the issue now with a lot of injuries in this league. There's been talk maybe these players, maybe they played too much basketball in their youth, and maybe that's just causing a lot of these issues injury-wise with these players.
Don't get me started on that. I will tell you about the NBA in particular. It is a league of the super athletes, okay? These athletes are a completely different kettle of fish probably than any other athlete in professional sports. They're large, they're exceptionally fit. They play a game on a hardwood surface at the highest pace I think basketball has ever been played. I think if you compare the game today to the days of Wilt Chamberlain, I don't think these games are comparable. So, Tony, I think the pace of the game, what's being asked of these athletes, I don't think it's that they're playing too many games. I just think this is, it's grueling. I don't know what to say, but I'm not surprised we get a lot of injuries.
Yeah, that's true. It's grueling, and of course, every game televised, so every play is under a microscope too. So I think a magnifying glass. I think that has a lot to do with it because these players got to be on every night, and it's tough to do because the body will give out. And also, I think what we've seen here, there's a huge gap between the elite player and everyone else, and that's one thing that's bothered me the most about this league.
Yeah, it certainly has, and we are seeing a case of teams with a lot of games, with I'll try to keep the terminology on this side of the Atlantic. A lot of games where we have a record of 24-8 against, or 29-5 against a team that's gone shall we say, 9-22. So we're seeing a lot of teams with great records, and a lot of teams with really crappy records. And I think those sort of middling teams, they're getting squeezed out a lot. It is very much the haves and the have-nots. I think that will sort of correct itself here over the next couple of seasons, as basketball continues, as the quality of the players continue to develop. But let's get to it, shall we? Why don't we start with that 9-22 team I was talking about? That is the Washington Wizards. They're hosting the Heat. The Heat are 24-8. They're 8-2 and won the last 5 in a row. Most recently, a tough win, by the way, 117-116 over an excellent Sixers side. Another team that's fantastic to watch, Tony. They're 9-7 straight up, 10-8-1 against the spread away. Justice Winslow has been downgraded now to out. Every time we talk about the Heat and Justice Winslow, he's out for some reason. Then he's back in for a minute, then he's out again. You know, they just need to send him to the hospital, I don't know, for 3 months and let him come back and play with some regularity. The Wizards, 2-8. They lost the last 2, most recently falling 100-107. Defeat at the hands of the New York Knicks. They're 4-8 straight up, 5-7 against the spread at home. Bradley Beal is questionable due to a leg injury. They've gone over in 4 of the last 5. Now, I know we don't have a line on this one, Tony, but when that line does come out, what do you recommend? Obviously, the Heat are going to be big favorites, even in Washington. But what about the total? What do you recommend on this play?
Yeah, I would lean here to the Heat and Wizards to go over total, and I think it'll be somewhere in the 220s, maybe the mid 220s here, because Beal's injury you got to keep an eye on. He's definitely an offensive starter for Washington, but this is a Wizards team that plays absolutely no defense. We always harp about this team all the time. One thing to note here with the Heat, you got to put them in as an Eastern Conference favorite here, because they're in there with Boston, Philadelphia. No one really talked about the Heat, but they're playing very well. They played to over total in 9 of their past 10 games. They won 8 of those. Look at their form shooting the basketball. Past 5 games, 46%, nearly 41% from 3. And you know the Wizards defense last in the NBA defensive efficiency range. They're allowing nearly 117 points per 100 possessions. They just run up and down the court. As you talked about the fast pace, this is one of the fastest paced team in the league, third in pace. But you look at the Wizards defensive form, just terrible. Past 5 games allowing 49% shooting, 40% from 3. You look at their head-to-head matchups, they've gone over in 6 of 9. I would lean here, once we see the number somewhere in the mid-220s, I would say the Heat and Wizards over total.
All right, so we're going over. All right, let's move on, shall we? Let's choose another one without a line, but let's talk about the game anyway. The Bucks at the Bulls. Again, the Bucks 29-5. What a great team they are to watch. 20-14 against the spread. They're 8-2. They won the last 2 in a row, beating the Magic 111-110, a squeaker there on Saturday. 13-3 straight up, 9-7 against the spread away. Giannis Giannis. We'll just call him Giannis, all right? Is that all right? He's out, but Eric Bledsoe is a probable return. Total under in 5 of the last 6, and the Bulls 13-20. I would say they're probably a middling team. They're probably one of those kind of middle-tier teams that I was saying we're not seeing that many of. 8-15 against the spread. 5-5. Last outing was a 35-point victory over the Hawks, 116-81. They're 7-10 straight up, 9-8 against the spread at home. Zach LaVine, Thomas Satoransky, Wendell Carter likely to play, while Lauri Markkanen is definitely not. Total is under in 4 of the last 5. Again, we talk about all those injuries on the Bulls. No line yet. There will be one. But what do you like in terms of general category of play on this one, Tony?
Yeah, I would look here to the Bulls side here. You're probably getting anywhere plus 6 to 7 points as a home underdog. I know Giannis is questionable with that baggage. I doubt if he'll play. You know, when you look at back injuries and you're questionable, it's a regular season game against the Bulls. I don't think there's a reason for him to play in this game. Lauri Markkanen, well, he's dealing with an illness. Sound like the flu to me. So he's again someone who's questionable. We'll see how he looks. Maybe get him some Pepto-Bismol. We'll see how that works overnight and see if he's ready. But still, the one thing about the Bulls here is what they've done is, they've covered 11 of their past 14. This is one of the most disappointing teams to start the season, but they've kind of got their act a little better together here of late. In December, they've shot the 3 better. Past 5 games, they're 46% shooting, over 38% from 3, and they're defending, holding teams at 43%. And of course, You're getting a good amount of points here at home. No Giannis. Important to note, he only played 55 seconds against Orlando, so they've got tape on the Bucks without Giannis in the lineup. So now they can actually come up with a strategy against Milwaukee here with no Giannis in the lineup. Likely, I'll take the home underdog Bulls at this one. Looking at +6 to 7.5.
Oh, you think Levine, Satoransky, and Carter playing? I mean, the Bulls have had a lot of injuries. That is no doubt about that. As they start to get their squad back and healthy, we might start to see a better run from the Bulls.
I think so. I think someone to keep an eye on is Otto Porter. He was a good addition to him last year, and one of the reasons why everyone had thought this was a team to look out for this season, one of the more improved teams, but almost like the Nets from a season ago. But they just can't get it together. Otto Porter Jr. is an important piece of that team. I think once he comes back somewhere near the All-Star break, I think the Bulls team will be a team to look at, and they may be close enough to even get in the playoffs. How terrible the Eastern Conference is.
Right. All right, well, I tell you what, we've got 2 more games, so let's get to them. We have lines on these ones. Suns at Blazers. The Suns, 12-20, 17-14-1 against the spread. Just snapped an 8-game losing streak with a 112-110 win over the Kings. They're 6-11 straight up, 7-10 against the spread away from home. DeAndre Ayton is out, but Frank Kaminsky is probable to play. They've gone over in 4 of the last 5, and the Trailblazers 14-9, 13-18-2 against the spread. They've lost the last 3 in a row. That was to the Pelicans, Jazz, and the Lakers. They're 8-8 straight up, 6-8-2 at home. Skull Labissiere joins the list of Portland injuries, and I love that name, by the way. Over in 4 of the last 6. But Portland, 4-point home favorites. Total points 231. 2 teams fairly evenly matched here, but Portland getting the nod here, I think, because it's home court advantage. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Of course, Portland dealing with their share of injuries, but I think there's a big matchup advantage here for Portland in their backcourt. C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard are healthy, and they'll be going up against Booker and company there. And I just think the guard play is a lot much better here for Portland, especially with this short number. I'll take them to cover. As you talked about, the Suns that lost 8 straight until beating Sacramento by 2 on Saturday. Here's another young team. The NBA is a lot different now. You're noticing guys in their early 20s are getting a lot of playing time. And what's happening here is they just don't have their bodies built up physically. And you're seeing a lot of terrible defensive numbers from these young teams. Here's the Suns is a good example of giving up. Look at their past 5 games, allowing 52% shooting, 43% from 3. Portland has shown the ability to beat up on the bad teams on their home court. I think with Lillard and McCollum here, both healthy, you look at, as a matter of fact, Portland is shooting the 3 well, 38% at home. And, of course, Phoenix, they don't shoot the ball as well away from home. And, of course, they met 2 weeks ago. Trailblazers shot the ball well on the road in Phoenix, 47%, 41% from 3. And they defended home. I'm going to go ahead and take Portland here because I think the guard advantage here is a big advantage here for the Portland Trailblazers.
All right, well, good choice, and they are 4-point home favorites. And we're going with the over. Both these teams have gone over in 4 of the last 5 and 4 of the last 6, respectively.
I'm going to stay away from the total here. I just don't trust Phoenix's offense on the road. I'll take the Portland at -4.
Fair enough. Last game, Pistons at Jazz. Detroit 12-21, 12-19-2 against the spread. They're 3-7. The last 10 games. Their last game was 109-136 loss to the Spurs. 4-11 straight up, 7-9-1 against the spread away. Markieff Morris unlikely to play after suffering a foot injury. And for Detroit, they've gone over in 4 of the last 5. And the Jazz 20-12, 14-17-1 against the spread. 8-2 in the last 10 on a 2-game winner, beating the Clips 120-107 on Saturday. They're 12-3 straight up, 7-8 against the spread at home. Total's gone over as well with the Jazz in 6 of the last 8, and they are 9-point home favorites. Total here 218. Are you going to stay away from the points here as well?
Well, I'll look here at the points with Utah minus. I know it's a big number. I prefer that over the total, but the Pistons is just, again, another team that doesn't play defense. Their form is just terrible. I mean, look at their past 5 games, 51% shooting, giving up 42% from 3. Utah has won 7 of their past 8, covered 4 straight. Of course, you mentioned that game against the Clippers. They're shooting the ball very well here. We talked that window of 5 games, 47%, 38% from 3. They shoot better at home and they defend. But, when you look at Detroit, they've lost and failed to cover 6 of 7. The only exception was that win against a really bad Washington team. When you look at the Pistons' road performance, just terrible. They have failed to cover 8 of their past 9 on the road against teams with winning home records. Okay, and they're usually underdogs and heavy underdogs in those games. They're getting pounded. And they're just not performing here, and it's sad because their coach was a former coach for the Raptors, and it was a defensive-minded coach, but they're just not getting it done. And they have veterans, and that's a problem. They signed Blake Griffin, but of course he's dealing with that knee injury, and you saw all those alley-oops that he did in Detroit, as you mentioned before. It's a difficult game, and if you got a lot of players that like to sky for those slam dunks, it's going to take a toll on you, and it's definitely taking a toll on Blake Griffin's knee. I'll go ahead and take Utah on this one.
All right, Tony. Always a pleasure. What do we have up from El Tigre at picksandparlays.net, by the way, for our listeners and viewers?
We'll have some NBA up there on Monday, as well as some bowl actions. We got 4 bowls going off on Monday. Looking forward to them.
All right, which ones do you have up there?
Well, I'll have the First Responder Bowl for sure up there. I'm looking also at a total in the Orange Bowl.
All right, Tony, always a pleasure. And you can find Tony, he's one of our expert handicappers, along with 34 other nothing but the best folks in our handicapping department. You can find them all at picksandparlays.net. Go ahead, load up their expert plays, put them in your shopping basket, and we have a 15% off bonus for you. Use code BOWL for 15% off everything in your cart. All right, in case you missed any of the picks, don't worry. Not only will this show be available as soon as it's ended, but right now, after the break, I'm going to recap all the picks from today. Welcome back to the show, Picks and Parlays. What a show we've had this 5th day of Kwanzaa, December the 30th, 2019. Wow, the year has just flown by. And so have our picks today. We had a lot of them. We started with Craig Trapp, by the way, talking a little college bowl betting. And then we moved right along with college basketball and, of course, NBA. So why don't we recap? Let's start. Sean Higgs, college basketball. Let's take a look at Sean's picks. We'll put them up here on the screen for you in a second, as soon as we can find them. Did we find them? There we go. His NCAA basketball free picks. Xavier at Villanova. Take the over 139.5. Seton Hall at DePaul. Take Seton Hall -1, and Tulane at Memphis. Take Memphis -16. Then we moved right along to Tigre territory, and we talked some NBA. We did have 2 games here with no lines. The Heat and Wizards, no line yet on that. But Tony said take over on the total. And the Bucks at Bulls, no line on that one either. But the advice from El Tigre was to take the Bulls. Finally, Pistons at Jazz. Take the Jazz -9. And the Suns at the Trailblazers. Take the Trailblazers -4. As always, lots of free picks up at picksandparlays.net. And of course, all of our expert handicappers are there. And right now, we have a special offer, 15% off. Use promo code BOWL, B-O-W-L, and get that discount on everything you put in your basket. And if you've missed any part of this show, don't worry, folks. You can find it on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, complete replay of the video of the show. And if you want to hear it, download it while you're at the gym and listen. The podcast always available at the Believe Podcast Network, B-L-E-A-V. That is our podcast network, and that is where you will find us. You will also find us live here every day, Monday through Friday, for your personal edification, right here on the Sports Byline Radio Network, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, those are all live, as well as YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter Live. You can see my beautiful face if you want, or you can just pretend that, I don't know, I'm a supermodel or something. Neither of them will get you very far, but we will give you lots of great picks. So be sure to tune in. And once again, folks, you can go to our website, picksandparlays.net. We've got a ton of free picks, and our expert picks are there for you as well. Until tomorrow, same time, same place. Bet wise, bet smart, win, and as always, bet, win, repeat.